Hello and welcome to Differential Discussions. I'm Melissa,
And I'm Dave.
and we're still talking about red cell morphology. And today we're going to talk about warm autoimmune hemolytic anemia.
Really cool.
Say what?
Autoimmune hemolytic anemia. So looking at this field, pretty representative, kind of while we started with it. Some may comment that we're in a poor area, and I think we would tend to agree with you. This particular patient was so anemic that finding a good area is next to impossible. But this is certainly functional for our purposes here. So we did talk about hereditary spherocytosis in a previous video.
Yep, we can link to it.
Thank you for doing that. We'll link to that. This is going to look, in some ways, look a lot like that. So we have a very similar picture here where there appears to be a lot of spherocytes. And then we have larger, more polychromatophilic red cells, which we described in the last video as having this purplish color, the red from the staining of the hemoglobin, the blue, the basophilia coming from the RNA, giving us this purple color.
Yep.
So a little bit about the patho, I guess.
Yep, let's talk about patho.
Yeah.
So I guess let's preface, we know it's blood bank. We're going to tap on it because it's blood bank, but we're touching it because it obviously shows up hematologically when we're looking at the slides. So it's warm. We'll look at a cold, but this is a warm autoimmune hemolytic anemia. So our antibody reacts at warm temperatures.
Yeah, and warm being body temperature, right? That's
Exactly.
that's how we relate that. And so these antibodies bound to membrane surface, they flow through the spleen, and the spleen does this kind of conditioning and removal process where it's taking part of the membrane, right? Membrane reseals, volume is conserved, a loss of surface area, and you get that spherocyte. And some cells may be removed altogether by the spleen, just totally from circulation. We have the hypoxia, which induces the premature release of some of these retics, our shift retics. That's the patho. Did I pass my exam?
Pass. Cool. So we're definitely seeing a lot of spherocytes and polychromasia here. So a good number of, oops, I lost my little drawing guy. Let me bring him back. Spherocytes, some nice microspherocytes too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Spherocytes.
Yeah, some of these are quite small.
A lot of spherocytes. Like this whole bungalow here. These are all spherocytes.
Look at that.
There's a bunch of them here. So basically look around, any of them that have that darker color hemoglobin. I know in the hereditary spherocytosis video, Dave, you mentioned that we have this kind of deeper coloration to the hemoglobin in our spherocytes because it's the same amount of hemoglobin as the other red cells. It's just more concentrated because, again, lack of surface area. So that's why it's a deeper color. So you can definitely see that. And most of these are more of microspherocytes.
Yeah, these are heavily conditioned by the spleen, right? These are maximum spherocyte. One thing I think I didn't address in the last video, just to relate some CBC indice things, as you get an elevated amount of spherocytes, that will begin to affect the MCHC, which is an indice component that measures concentration of hemoglobin per red cell. And so this kind of tracks. So like in a patient like this, I would expect to see the MCHC to kind of get touched. Perhaps in a lighter amount of spherocytes, like in the HS video we looked at, it may not affect the MCHC at all. But this one would almost certainly have an elevated MCHC, in my guess.
Yeah, this one totally would. And while we're touching indices, because you have the spherocytes, and a lot of them are microspherocytes, and then you have the polychromasia, which are usually macrocytic, slightly macrocytic reticulocytes. that what we're dealing with then would be a really elevated RDW. And if your RDW is really, really, really wide, your MCV would probably be normal because you have a small population and a big population. But remember, your MCV is an average. So your MCV would probably be normal, but the RDW would be sky high or not measured.
That's right.
And remember, the higher your RDW, the less reliable your MCV is. So this patient, it would be whoosh, gone, really, really high RDW. So the MCV would be completely unreliable.
Yep. It's super important in interpreting our, a red cell, red cell indices.
Yeah. Absolutely, especially for, in school, we don't talk a lot about like contaminated specimens and things like that, or, wrong patient in tube or wrong blood in tube, whatever you want to call it. But really in practice, that's a big thing that we look for is, contaminated specimens, improperly labeled, wrong patients, so those kinds of things. And that's usually where we see it is in the indices.
Absolutely. Yeah. RDW is a good one. MCV.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we pointed out the spherocytes. Let's point out some of the polychromation.
Polys. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some of them around here. We've got this one here.
The poly is almost directly linked to the cell size, right? Like every cell that's large happens to be a shift, a shift retic almost.
Yes,
That's not a rule.
All the big cells in this field are retics.
Right. And that's certainly not a rule. It just happens to correlate in this particular patient.
I also think there's Pappenheimer bodies.
Yeah. So thank you for pointing that out. Sometimes it's hard to tell if it's like oil, like a schmutz.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and Pappenheimer bodies usually are found in prolonged kind of hemolytic processes, right? Where there's a lot of red cell turnover.
And I think there's some in this red cell, and this red cell, and this red cell. And in this one, I actually think there might be basophilic stippling. It's really, really faint. And I'm playing with the fine tune so that we can try to see it. But it's really faint. It's not coarse. It's fine basophilic stippling.
And you really got to work at the focus for basophilic stippling.
Yes, even when you're the one controlling the microscope.
Yes. No, so I think that's one of the things students overlook. They get a field in focus. These are three-dimensional objects in space. You need to be, we're constantly oscillating the focus to kind of get the full picture, because you can miss basophilic stippling really, really easily.
And that's why I try to do that for us too, when we're looking at stuff here on this channel, just so play with that fine tune, just so you can see even some subtle differences, because, I don't know if we'll be able to actually see the basophilic stippling. It's so fine on that red cell, but I know at least you can see the Pappenheimer bodies and stuff in this field. So it's worth a try.
Yes. Yeah. And Pappenheimer bodies, that would just to define them, right? Those represent precipitated iron, siderotic granules. So this is like kind of junk iron inside the red cell.
Yep.
Staining.
Cool. And then for completeness, we have neutrophils, 3 neutrophils here. And then that one's half out of the field. So we don't know if it's a neutrophil or a precursor or what, but
it could be a meta or a band or something.
Yep.
We don't know about those yet, though. We'll talk about those down the line.
Get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So 3 neutrophils. All right, let's move along. Let me actually move over.
What a great slide. Ooh. All right, we got a couple of things here. So we see what looks to be an orthochromic nucleated red blood cell, or we could just say NRBC. I'm trying to show off a little bit, right? But that's just a nucleated red cell. Very common to see those when the body is struggling to compensate for a red cell turnover.
Yes. Yep. So
and then,
and he actually has some basophilic stippling.
Oh, I do see that a bit. It's that stippling's a little bit more coarse, right?
It is a little bit.
Than the other one. super cool. So a little bit of basophilic stippling. So basophilic stippling, we'll see that a lot in high red cell turnover situations, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's just RNA.
And then I also see an interesting thing over here.
Mhm.
So we get another inclusion. We kind of got the three. We got the big three inclusions on one slide.
We're so lucky.
So pictured there with my terrible arrow is a Howell Jolly body, essentially just DNA remnant of a nucleus that's been extruded already. I can see this person's spleen is probably really, really busy and missed the QC on this one.
That's a lot, yeah. And this is actually a really nice Pappenheimer body right here. It's almost like the classic 3 dots together that you see in all of like the atlases that you never actually see in person.
Atlases are great, everybody, but they don't necessarily mimic life experience super well.
Yeah, don't forget, the cells don't read the textbooks, so they're gonna look how they want.
Right.
But yeah, that's very cool. So we have all 3 in this field. Yep. And then of course we have some spherocytes.
Yes, yeah,
And
they're
some-
numerous. You know, they're so numerous, you can just almost just gate them into like boxes, right? Like, like you did in the previous field.
Yep.
Clear my drugs. So yeah, plenty of spherocytes. This is a narrower field than what the microscope is truly seeing.
Yeah.
But man, I would say this is approaching like a 3+ or 4+ probably pretty easily, huh, on
Yep.
this slide.
Absolutely.
Which is a rare thing to say. I don't think I've reported 3 or 4+ spherocytes very often.
No. Nope. And then a couple neutrophils.
Couple neutrophils. Yep.
Yeah. And move on to another one.
Yeah, sure.
See what else we
See if
can
we
find.
see anything else notable.
Nothing too exciting, but I can stop here.
Great slide.
So we have a neutrophil here. Bring it back. There we go. Neutrophil.
Mhm.
It's bilobed.
It is in fact bilobed,
Mhm.
which we
So-
would note.
Yep.
And we'll talk about it in another video.
No, but we would call this hyposegmentation because we usually have 3 to 5 lobes. So if there's enough of them, we would say they're present.
Mhm.
This slide may have enough of them. Who knows?
Mhm.
But it has a nice big vacuole in here, right here as well.
Does.
So pretty cool. Other than that, polychromasia,
Yep,
spherocytes,
yep.
and Pappenheimers.
Pappenheimers. Yeah. I mean, I think we kind of just described that'd probably be our call for the slide, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of nuance to the pluses, but this would be a spherocyte. If there was a 5+, I'd take a 5+, maybe, you know. So, but then polychrome.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Like 1+, maybe 2+?
Yeah, it's right in kind of straddling the line of 2+. Definitely 1+, but
Mhm.
possibly 2+ for this one. We've only looked at a handful of fields. For this one, I would probably look at more fields just to really gauge what I want to call for polychrome. And then of course, calling Pappenheimer bodies as present. That's how we call PAPs. If you enumerate them, then you would enumerate them. There's probably at least 1+, if not 2+, if you enumerate PAPs. For the Howell Jollies, and sorry, my dog wanted to sing. If you see the Howell Jollies and the basophilic stippling, I would probably not call them yet because they're not consistent enough for me.
All right. Is there anything else we can maybe?
No, I think this one we're pretty good with. So thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you'd like notifications whenever we post a new video. And feel free to reach out to us on social media or via email with comments or suggestions about future content. Thanks.